Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to wrap up this hayabusa engine today. So the last video we ended up with me kind of messing up. I checked the valve clearances, intake and exhaust. And what I forgot was that I'm going based off the intake valve clearance measurements when there's a separate intake valve clearance and an exhaust valve clearance. So what we came up with was the intake valves were mostly 5 thousandths, and then one was at 4 thousandths, and then the exhaust valves were 9, 10, 11, 9, and 8 thousandths. So according to the book, the manual, the intake valves, they're all in spec, they're all within that range, and luckily the exhaust valves are all in spec as well, because there's a different spec number. Spec on the exhaust is 8 to 12 thousandths, and then spec on the intake is 4 to 7 thousandths, so we're all in range. I really wanted to get this second cylinder exhaust valve down to the 9 thousandths, but 10, 11 thousandths, it's still in spec. 12 thousandths is when it starts going out of spec. So the 11 thousandths is borderline, but for the sake of getting this engine back into the bike and listening to it run, hopefully, because I don't know the status of the bottom end of this thing, and I'd like to find out before I waste any more time checking valves or adjusting valves, which, of course, according to spec, it doesn't need it. So, we're going to reassemble this engine. Valves are all in spec. It's timed. I have a little oil inside of it. I kind of want to spin it around a little bit to get that oil moving. And that's what I'm going to do right now. And then once that's done, then we'll put everything back together. I got to pull the starter clutch cover back off so I can put the gasket in there. And then I'm going to pull the stator off as well and put a new gasket in there, because that one was definitely leaking. That one was causing all the puddles on the floor. So let's connect this to the little jump box here. I don't have the spark plugs in it, that way less resistance, so the engine will crank over a little higher RPM. We won't have to worry about the compression slowing it down. Oh, ground popped off. Okay. Find a better ground here. Just gonna spray some WD-40 in the cylinders to see what happens. Should see a mist come out. All right. Looks like the oil's coming up. Kind of low on oil. Let me put a little more oil in there. All right, put a little more oil in there. We got oil coming in at the cam. All right, perfect. So the oil's coming in. Coming out at the #1 cylinder. So that's all I wanted there. I wanted to, prime that pump beforehand, make sure it's actually working. It is a used pump, so I wanted to check it. All right, so I'm gonna pull this cover off. Put the gasket on it, pull the stator off, and then put the gasket on that, and then we can put the cam cover back on, and we could get this back in the frame. It's been a long time coming. Unfortunately, I sold my air compressor a couple days ago, so I would zip these off with some air tools, but waiting to buy another compressor, can't seem to find one. They're way too expensive new. Camera view here. So if everything goes good, we put this in the bike and it runs and works good, then I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do the valve lash adjustment while it's in the bike. Because the majority of you guys, that's how you're going to do it anyway. In a real world, if you got the engine out like this, it's a lot easier. Because that frame is tight. There's not a lot of room to work when it's in the engine, when it's in the frame. But with all the problems this engine had, it's pretty much an unknown right now. I do have compression, as stated in the previous video, maybe 2 previous videos. I did have 175 psi compression, but I just don't know the status of the lower end. The previous cylinder head had cam bearing damage, so I'm kind of worried that the bottom end might have cam bearing damage as well, because it was starved with oil with that pump intake, that filter being clogged. That's not what I wanted to do. There's still a lot of RTV on here. This washer's gonna fall. Let me grab this washer out of here. Stuck on there. Gaskets here. I think that might be the stator. Let's see. That's that one. Perfect. Okay. So there's still some gasket material on here, and a lot of sealant. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention on the last video, that conical washer that was in there, I did post in the messages about the proper way of installing that, because I don't think I explained it very well in the video. I'll draw an example right now. So there's 100% guarantee that you don't put that washer in the wrong way. On there. All right, really quick, that conical washer, so it's concave on the what the hell's it called? It's concave on the basket side and convex on the pressure plate side, or the side that the nut screws into. So this goes, the washer is curved like this, conical. So the nut goes here. That's the nut side, and then this is the clutch basket side. So that's exactly how the washer goes. Obviously, this is exaggerated. It's not that conical shaped, but to show you an illustration on how it goes. So this is the nut or pressure plate side, and then this is the clutch basket side, and that's how the washer goes. Okay, just wanted to clarify that so no one messes that up when they install it. All right, where was I? Where is that rag? I think I cleaned this side pretty good. I got this one with the little eraser tool. Let's see. Can you take the pin out of here? Other pin goes there. Washer goes there. Helps if I put the gasket there. Oh, let me oil this up because I want to reuse it. Because like I said, $100 gasket kit. In case I have to go in this again, which hope I don't. I hope the transmission's good. I did peek inside there to see if there's any damaged gears when the pan was off. I didn't see any damage to the gears itself. I did see one of the dogs on the gear dogs to shift looked a little chewed up at the corner, so I'm hoping we don't get any gear pop out under load. Because that's usually what happens when the dogs are damaged on the gear itself. And it'll go into gear, but the second you put a load on it, it'll pop out of gear. It'll push itself out of gear. So it's a risk. You know, I'm risking a lot by not tearing the whole engine apart, but it's something that can be done later. I am running out of time, unfortunately. My business, the concrete business, is starting up soon, so I gotta get this back into the machine and free up this parking spot for my truck. So that is the reason why I did not tear deep into the engine. I'm praying that everything works out. But if that's not the case, then we will tear into it. We will do something with this engine. If I have to tear into it, then we're going to modify it. We'll probably go boost. All right, remember, light torque on these. maybe 5-6 foot-pounds. Or for those Newton meter guys, 8 to 10 Newton meters. Doesn't take much. I'm going to oil this seal again. The gasket, not seal. I'll mention it again, you can also use grease. I mentioned that in the previous video. That don't work right. Yes, that is right. Just double checking, I did clean this gasket surface. I don't remember if I cleaned this one. No, this one I did not clean. All the bolts are the same except for these two. The two bolts that go into the pins, those are longer. This isn't gasket material. This is more RTV. So previous owner didn't want to spend that $100 on the gasket kit, I guess. And they could have put it on a little bit neater. I mean, that's slopped everywhere. It's inside, it's outside, it's all over the case. I just popped the damn thing off. All right, I'm gonna put the plugs back in, if I can remember where I put them. All right, I'm gonna put the cover on and then I'll spin it around and do the stator gasket. Making sure the spark plug tube gaskets don't fall. Oh, I apologize. I didn't turn the light on. Whoops, that video's going to be a little dark, guys. Sorry. I didn't realize the light was off. The sun was shining in here and then it stopped. Tighten these caps from the center out. All right, let me flip it around and get that stator cover. This may dump oil. Put the pan under there. Heavy. Whew. It's gonna be fun getting that back in the bike. magnet. There's definitely a gasket on here, but I don't know why it was leaking so bad. The gasket looks pretty good too. Yeah, the gasket doesn't look bad. It's definitely leaking oil from this side. Don't see any damage. Doesn't appear to be cracked. No damage, no cracks. A little bit of exploded clutch basket from the previous repair that they didn't clean, because that's to be expected considering what the oil pickup looked like. But no damage. No gasket material left on here. I don't see any gasket material on that side. Nope. A little bit on the top, but that's not where it was leaking. I missed something here. Just checking to see if there's any cracks in the case or anything, because it was definitely leaking from this side. And before I started working on this, it's sitting on the kickstand, leaned over to this side, and there's just puddles of oil sitting there. I don't see any cracks. Nothing loose. Okay. We'll put this one back on. This gasket is perfect condition. No rips, no tears. Watch your fingers on these, because the magnet will snap it shut. Woo! The same size? Yep. Yes, I'm still sick. Going on over 2 months being sick. I went to the doctor. They said I didn't have COVID, but I had influenza. And I asked the doctor, well, how could I have influenza for 2 months? Over 2 months. So, I don't know what the heck's going on with me. But I've had the cough, getting headaches, the coughing, sore throat. Luckily, the fever was only the one time, but the weather's starting to get a little nicer. It was 60 degrees today in Chicago, end of February, which is unheard of. So I'm getting that take out the motorcycle itch. If you see in the background, everybody, I still have that TL1000R for sale. I gotta sell it in order to buy another project, guys. So if you're interested, send me a message. Only $2,800. Everybody here is asking, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 for those things. But I sell them so I can get more projects. I'm not gouging people on a 20-something-year-old motorcycle, so. Okay. So this is ready to go back into the the frame. I'm gonna have to drain the oil, of course, because I gotta remove the oil cooler because oil's gonna go everywhere if I don't, and I'm gonna destroy the oil cooler trying to put it back in. I do have to, this engine, they removed the air injection or EGR, I think it's EGR. So I got to put those block off plates back on it. So I'm going to take those off of the old engine or the old head and swap them out. So there's the EGR. Someone made some plates and to block it off to remove all that emission stuff. So I'm going to swap these over to the new head. And there goes my back sight. And just like when I removed it, I'm also going to put the exhaust bolts, flange bolts back in the head because I'm going to, just like when I removed it, I laid it flat and kind of slid it in and lifted it up. I'm going to have to do the same, and the exhaust bolts will save the head or cover any damage. You guys see what I'm doing here? Can't tell. Just like to use some gasket maker on here as well. be interesting. They use the orange gasket maker. There it goes. Lose a finger here. Whew. Looks like someone just made a little rectangular piece of aluminum to cap up the holes. Almost there, guys. I know this is boring. I'm not going to put the sealant on it. There's some gasket material on that one. Alright, I'm just going to put the exhaust bolts back on. And then this is good to go back in the frame. That'll be on the next video. Or if you want me to skip putting it all back in together, skip it all together. I don't know if you guys want to watch me put the engine back in. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll just skip that boring part. Should be entertaining though. It's just me. One person putting in a 200-pound engine. That should be entertaining, right? Alright, there she is. Whew. I said off camera, I'll drain the oil, remove the oil cooler, and the next time you guys see me, we'll be putting it back in the frame. I'm going to go ahead and put the spark plugs back in. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But that should be it. Let's pray this thing works. So we have compression. I know we have fuel. The bike tried to run when I got it, but with no compression, of course. And it did have spark because it was popping out of the exhaust. So all I can hope is that the bottom end is good, and when it starts up, it doesn't have a nasty rod knock or something. And that the transmission actually doesn't pop out of gear. That's another aspect of the test ride that we just won't know until it's running. But the transmission did look good, except for that one little issue on the gear dogs where they interlock. When they interlock and the damage is on the actual dog edge, sometimes under load, it's so much load it forces it out of gear, and then it pops out of gear. That's usually what happens when you see on Facebook or wherever, Craigslist, people posting their motorcycles. Oh, it runs great, but it pops out of second gear. Well, it doesn't run great because the engine's part of the transmission. So if you're buying something like that, then you have to factor in, you got to strip the engine down. You got to split the cases in order to fix that, so that's not a cheap job. So it doesn't matter if it runs. If the transmission pops out of gear, you essentially have to do everything you would do to rebuild the engine. You got to split the cases, you got to pull everything off anyway. So that's what I'm hoping is not the issue with this, especially seeing those damaged dogs. So hopefully it'll stay in gear and it won't pop out. And hopefully it doesn't have a rod knock or something from the lack of oil from the oil strainer being clogged, because the head is definitely damaged. That cam journal is toast. So usually the damage starts at the head and works its way down. I'm hoping it wasn't run that long to a point where it destroyed the rods, the rod bearings, the main bearings, etc. All right, guys. Well, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.